So let's get straight into the message with a question. I want you to turn to your neighbor and ask them, what's the one purchase that you made that you later regretted? What's that one thing that you bought that you later regretted? Is it a pair of shoes? Is it clothes? Is it a car? I hope you didn't regret buying a car. What's the one purchase that you made that you completely regretted? All right. I don't know what your neighbor said. But I asked my husband this question last night, and he tickled me. And because he's not here, allow me to embarrass him a little bit. So his illustration may be a little bit dated. Jeremy, I don't know if you'll understand this illustration, and any other Gen Z in the house, Zazie, I'm not sure you'll get it, but many years ago, when he was apparently more fashion conscious than he is now. Do we have that picture? Guys, I need you to keep this between us. I did not project 19-year-old David Kuria on the screen. But apparently this was the day that he was more fashion conscious. And he told me that there was a popular designer brand called FUBU. I didn't know until last night that FUBU actually stood for us by us. Did anybody know that? I didn't know that it meant that. Oh, I can see the Gen X's, the millennials are in this corner. And he loved the brand. And so this is a wandering youth. He clearly didn't do ropes. Or did he do ropes? I don't know. Maybe his friends. Joram, did my husband do ropes? He didn't. No wonder. He was a wandering youth in the CBD at about 7 p.m. So first of all, you don't wander in the CBD at that time, and you're a wandering youth. That is a no-no. He gets into an exhibition stall. If you remember the days when exhibition stalls were now becoming a thing, and everyone was going to Turkey, China, wherever to get stuff. So he gets into this store, it's about 7 p.m., and he buys this designer branded shirt. And he's so pleased with his purchase. It doesn't help that he had a crush on a girl. The story always has a girl. And it never ends well, because the girl wasn't me. So in his youth church, and Joram and Grace, please, I know you know this story. And in his youth church, there's this girl that he liked. And so what he decided to do was to wear this shirt the next Sunday in church. And he was excited. He folded his shirt really well. He ironed his pants, his jeans, and he had his sneakers ready for church. And that day in church, he was unstoppable. He was just walking by the corridors with so much swag, knowing that he's purchased this designer shirt. And he couldn't help then but notice some people laughing and chattering. And initially, instinctively, he thought that maybe my fly is open, or maybe my jeans are torn, or my shoes, something is happening. And so he rushes to the bathroom. And when he goes to the bathroom, he meets his image in the mirror. And what he reads in the mirror was foo-foo. And not FUBU. And so, my husband was ripped off. He bought a fake designer top. And for those who may not know, fufu is a Western cuisine, similarly to East Africa's ugali. It is not a fashion brand. It's not in any way close to a designer brand. And when he told me this, I was literally rolling on the floor, because surely, how naive can you be? One, it's 7 p.m., it's dark, you don't know what you're buying. Two, he bought it at a steal. It was so cheap that he thought that he had ripped off the person selling. And then three, we lived in an era where there were many knockoff brands. That was the era of Michael Jordan. He was the MVP, he was the star. And you would buy Nike, and when you go home, it's Nick or Mike. That was the era when you go to downtown Nairobi and you buy a Samsung TV and you get home and it's Samvung or something like that. And we have many other pictures on some knockoff brands. There's X-Boy, and there's things like Now this will make you blind, for sure. Do not consume anything that looks like that. And I don't know, oh my God, Apple. Do we have any, oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. And even as I was rolling on the floor, You know, it's interesting when we say hindsight is 2020. And this is true of shopping, but it's also true in many things in life. You know, you get into an investment and it's offering you almost unreal returns, only for you to be scammed and for you to realize you should have done better research. And you say, I wish I knew. Sometimes you get into an exercise program that promises to burn fat while you are sleeping. You need not do a thing, need not lift a finger, only to look at yourself in the mirror 6 months later after you've spent so much money on pills. I wish I knew. And you know, it's easy to make some of these examples and for us to laugh when the stakes are low. But when the stakes get higher and the impact of decision making gets real, you can scarcely afford to say, I wish I knew. Is it in your career where you have worked for 10 or 20 years, you have gotten the corner office on 26th floor with a view of the Nairobi skyline somewhere in Upper Hill, only to come home and you realize that you have no meaningful relationships with your spouse or with your children? You get into your house and your children scatter like roaches when the lights are turned on. Is it in investments when you don't want to spend all when you don't want to spend all your hard-earned money on investments because you're chasing the next best deal that will go up? Any quail farmers in the house? You don't want to make the critical decision to end up with someone and one day look back and ask, how did I get here? So how do we ensure that when it comes to major life decisions, that we are making the right decisions? For our visitors to Mavuno Church Lavington, welcome. The entire month of October, we've been going through this phenomenal series called Road Maps, how to get to where you want to be. And my husband started this series very passionately and articulately. Please say that I say that about him and not about the picture. And each week of the series, he's taken us through Proverbs by the wisest man who ever lived. We've been gleaning on what King Solomon has been saying in the book of Proverbs. Week 1, he introduced us to a principle, a very simple but potent principle known as the principle of the path. And in the principle of the path, he says that it's not your intention that determines your destination, it's your direction. So if you say, I'm racking up debt, I'm living lavishly, that path surely has a destination. And it's not financial freedom. If you say you're a workaholic, spending a lot of time in the office, that path has a destination. And it's not towards the close-knit family that you desire. Last week was week 2, and he introduced us to danger signs. And I loved what he did because he juxtaposed between 2 different sets of people. He taught us about the naive people and the simple people versus the prudent people. And he said that the simple people or the naive people see danger up ahead in some season of their lives, but they just keep going. You see red flags while you're dating, but you still go ahead and get married. The naive desire a long and healthy life, but they will eat what they want. They neglect exercise. The KFC customer care lady has your number. She even knows your name. The simple may desire a happy marriage, but when they see they are not connecting well with their spouse, they will do nothing about it. They will expect for the situation to be magically resolved. For those who didn't watch Family Night, Pastor James was violent. And he called these people simpletons. Very British. Just turn to your neighbor slightly. Do they look like a simpleton? And then Pastor Kuria then juxtaposed the simple and the naive people on one side and the prudent people on the other side. And he said that the prudent people see danger and take swift action. They immediately course correct. And we read from the book of Proverbs 27:12. And it said, the prudent see danger and take refuge, but the simple keep going and pay the penalty. Today, I want to attempt to build from there, and I want us to ask the question, how do we make sure we are making the right decisions? So picture this with me. We live in the AI chat GPT era. So someone comes up with a database of all decisions that have been made in the past 100 years. So think about marriage decisions, think about financial decisions and parenting decisions and who do I date type of decisions and investment decisions. And imagine if they mapped out all of these difficult life decisions in all their complexity. And once you went on ChatGPT, you were able to get the outcome that you're looking for. So for example, I go on this ChatGPT thing and I say, who do I date? Wafula or Kimotho? Where do I buy property? Joska or Kamulu? How do I save? In this scheme or the other scheme? How do I parent my kids? Do I follow a child-led parenting or what other style of parenting there is? Where and how do I invest? And when I do that, it just spits out this algorithm thing and it gives me an illustration of this decision has been made by this number of people, this was the outcome, and this is what happened, and then helping me choose and make my decision. Would that be great? Well, on paper, I think it would. Because somehow we think that our bad decisions were made because we lacked the right information. And if we just had more information, we would make the right decisions about what life is asking us to do. But you know, that's a grand fallacy. As a matter of fact, we live in a world that's drenched in information. When it comes to money, we probably have more information about money than many other generations had. We have seminars upon seminars and courses. We have people who call themselves financial coaches and actually advise you about money and investments. We have different spaces that you can get. We even have sermons that you can go to listen and to glean on about money. Yet, people still crash and burn. When it comes to family and raising kids, the data is all around us. I can literally sit at the corner of this stage and look at how people interact with their kids after the service is over. I can go to the creche, I can go to a family party and just stand and take notes and see, oh, Uncle so-and-so does this, Auntie so-and-so doesn't do this, so let me do this. Yet, we still make very poor parenting decisions. We have the data of people whose lives have been appended by addictions to sex, to drugs, to alcohol. Yet that doesn't deter us from indulging ourselves. So I want to put it to you that a supercomputer somewhere will not give you any likelihood of success. That it won't guarantee that any outcome that you're waiting for in your life will be a good outcome. So our problem, people, is not information. And our passage today wrestles with this tension. As I said earlier, the entire month of October, we've been gleaning on Proverbs, wise sayings written by King Solomon, the wisest man who ever lived. Now, when King Solomon was young, he had the opportunity to ask God for anything he desired. I had to Google, because I always have to Google. Because I wanted to know, how old was King Solomon when he asked God for what he asked God for? He was about 20. So I don't know how many people are 20. And even if you're not 20, if you were 20, what would you possibly ask God for? Would it be wealth and prosperity? Will it be, I want to have many wives and husbands? Would it be, I want a fleet of Jaguar cars? I want to live and work in Maldives Island? I don't know what you would ask God for. But instead of asking God for more wives or even immortality, like wouldn't you ask God for things like make me immortal type of thing? But he asks for wisdom. King Solomon wanted to know how to make decisions. In 2 Kings 3:9, it says this, so give your servant a discerning heart to govern your people and to distinguish between right and wrong. Solomon wanted to know how to make decisions. And then God is, I think, a bit surprised, but it says that he was pleased by his request. And Solomon is then made the wisest man who ever lived. Sections of 2 Kings 4:29 to 34 says this, God gave Solomon wisdom and very great insight, and a breadth of understanding as measureless as the sand on the seashore. Solomon's wisdom was greater than the wisdom of all the people of the East, and greater than all the wisdom of the people of Egypt. And let me just pause there. If you know anything about the ancient civilization that was Egypt at the time, it was like the hallmark of everything knowledgeable. They are attributed to giving us the sense of time as we know it. So astronomy, and they knew many things about architecture. And yet God gave Solomon wisdom more than the people in Egypt. He was wiser than anyone else. From all nations, people came to listen to Solomon's wisdom, sent by all the kings of the world who had heard of his wisdom. Wow. So Solomon was so wise and he was so knowledgeable that people came from across the world to listen to him, not to see his wealth and prosperity, which we know he had quite a bit of, not to see his palace or temple, which we know he had, which we know he built. It was grandiose and exquisite. Not to see the breadth of his kingdom, which we know was vast. Not even to see his beauty. Guys, his father, King David, was a stud. He was a looker. He was good looking. And in the book of 2 Samuel 11:2, they describe Bathsheba as a woman blessed with unique beauty. So 1 + 1 is 2. It's all very likely that Solomon was gorgeous. And these people were not coming to look at any of that. They were coming just to hear his wisdom. So let me just, it's interesting how we can think, oh, he was the wisest man in the world type of thing. But you know, in 1 Kings 3:2, it says, I will do what you have asked. I will give you a wise and discerning heart so that there will be never anybody like you. So who's the wisest person you know? Who is the wisest person you know? And don't name yourself. You're not. Don't name anybody in this room. Don't name your mother. She's amazing. But who is the wisest? Who's smart? Like who have you read about and you think that person is smart? Is it like Albert Einstein? Who? Or me? Yeah. I agree. But who is the smartest, wisest person that you know? It could be maybe the Nobel Peace Prize winners or Albert Einstein or one of those people or the Wright brothers, people who invented things. Now, what this verse is telling you is take all the Nobel Peace Prize winners, I don't know how many they are, over 100, and then take Albert Einstein, take anybody who you think is wise, mix their wisdom together. That doesn't even come close to the wisdom that Solomon had. This man had incredible wisdom. And in my mind, somebody who was this wise means that he can actually articulate himself very well in areas of botany and medicine and astrology and many other areas. He can look at you, Jeremy, and say, I think you're sick. And I think this is the diagnosis. He was wise. He understood these things. He understood human physiology and psychology and philosophy and law and everything. You only understand one principle, one thing that you studied. So no one in this room is as wise as King Solomon. Nobody who has ever lived after him has been wise as King Solomon. You know, he was also a literary giant. Have you read the book of Ecclesiastes? That's a thesis of life. And this man just penned it like that as you're writing your poetry. He was also Dr. Love of his time. The Song of Solomon just shows us how he could possibly seduce any woman that he wanted. He understood. He did. So he had seduction power. Is that a thing? He had seduction power. And so, think about this. With the summation of everything wise that he possessed, he was indeed a wise man. And so if there was anybody in the world who could say, God, thank you for the information, for the common sense, for the wisdom, for what you have done to me, it was Solomon. If there was anybody in the world who had the license to go and make decisions based on your own intuition, your own judgment, your own discernment, it definitely was Solomon. Yet, you need to pack your ears up for this. This is what I find interesting. When Solomon addresses the question of how we are to make good decisions that lead to happy endings and not a train wreck, the roadmap that will get you and me to where I desire to be, he goes on a complete tangent. Read with me Proverbs 3:5. My husband does this, so I was like, I'm going to do it as well. He carries his physical Bible. Proverbs 3:5 says, trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. What? Here is the wisest, most knowledgeable man who ever lived. The one man who could actually say that I know it all, I have all the understanding, I have all the insight to make a good decision. Here is the man who was renowned across the world. People came to sit at his feet. Kings came to sit at his feet just to listen to him. He has a great judicial track record. He made such good decisions. He made such wise decisions. He has a good track record of both sense and foresight. Yet the wisest man who has ever lived admits that he cannot afford to lean in on his own vast understanding. And he says to us in Proverbs 3:5, it's the Lord you must trust. It is not your wisdom. You know, I think it's very profound because my natural tendency when I'm making decisions is I find myself saying things like, the way I see it, the way I have always done it. Let me tell you what I did in the past. I will even tell you, I did this with my first child, so I know what to do with my second child. I took a really good course on investment, so I know what I'm doing. If you're a business owner, you're like, I've done this for years. I know what I'm doing. Somebody will say, I know where the line between use and addiction is. I've got this. But Solomon is saying, hey, I hear you. You're a smart person. You have everything that it takes to make a decision. But it's saying, don't lean on your own understanding. Sorry, folks, my tablet has just gone off on me. Where is the on button? Yet Solomon is saying, I know you're smart. I know you have been here before. I know you have read books about this situation. I even know you've lived long enough to know better. But even with all of that and with all that you know and you've been through and your lived experiences and your insight and your understanding, he's saying to you, don't make the mistake when it comes to making decisions of trusting in yourself. Never think you are old enough. You are wise enough, you are experienced enough, you are smart enough to do things by yourself. Whether it's in your relationships or your career or your health or your education or your money or your investments, even with your children, the King Solomon is telling us, you must daily make the decision to refuse to lean in on what you know, what you have learned, and you must make the decision to lean in on God. And you know what Solomon is saying, and let me thread this thing a little bit. He's saying that the answer to life is not information, the answer to life is not experience, the answer to life is not exposure. He's saying that if you want to make the right decisions in life, it starts with leaning to God. It's about getting up in the morning and committing your day to Him. It's about telling Him, I have this meeting lined up, I'm meeting my staff team, I'm meeting the board, I'm meeting this person or the other. And telling Him that even though I have met these people before, even though that I know who they are, and even though I have a game plan for my day, I really want to rely on You for your understanding and for your wisdom. It's about looking at your job or your business and acknowledging to Him that you do have a game plan. You have a strategic plan or a marketing plan or a growth plan or whatever other plan. And it's saying that all of these plans have been forged in the fire of my education, of my experience, of my exposure, of my smarts, and of my abilities. But it's still saying to Him that I don't want to trust myself more than I trust You. I want to prop myself against You and not against my wisdom. It's saying to those who are married that you've done the class. You did Ndoa years ago. You've even done it again. You're now a facilitator. You've read the books. You've attended seminars and conferences over the years. And it doesn't matter whether you've been married for 25 years or 1 year or 5 years. As you face another day, another week, another anniversary, it's telling God, Lord, I am a learner. Teach me to love my wife. Teach me to honor my husband. I don't want to rely on what I know. It's about the single person saying, I think I know who I'm looking for. In fact, I have a game plan on where I'm going to meet them. At Mavuno Church, Lavington. just to say that there are many single people in the room. May your eyes be opened. It's saying that I know who I want. I've got game, I can do this. But it's also saying that I don't want to rely on me, I want to rely on you. It's saying, even with my finances, you can be a financial guru, and that's great. But God is saying, you need to trust me. It's saying, even in my dating life, I want something, I have a plan. But I'm going to come to you daily and present the petition of my education, of my marriage, of my parenting, of any other plan that I have. I want to submit my life and all of my decisions to your wisdom. Proverbs 3:6 then gives us a promise. It says, in all your ways acknowledge him, and he shall make your paths straight. I love that phrase. He will make your path straight. In other words, it's saying that if you want to have direction from God, and if you want to know which path to take, realize that direction doesn't begin with a search for direction. Direction begins with submission to God. Direction will begin when you make the decision to surrender every area of your life to God. And this is not just your faith or your church life, but every single area of your life. And this submission needs you to start today, not when you are at a fork in the road, not when you have 3 bad options, Wafula, Otieno, Kimodo, and they're all bad. If you want direction for a relationship, start by submitting your dating life to him today. Direction will begin way before you enter a business deal. It'll begin when you daily surrender your business plan to him. So know this, your submission precedes your direction. Your submission precedes your direction. God knows that you've got years of experience. And he knows that you're a professional, that you are knowledgeable, that you are well educated, that you are well exposed. Some of us even have advisory roles in different organizations. He knows that. He knows that you're smart, but he also knows that your information is limited. It's not enough. He also knows that your wisdom is not enough. He knows that your insight is not enough. He knows that your experience is not enough. And he's seen many people rely themselves and get very burnt by those situations. There's marriages that have broken down, businesses that have crumbled, life savings that have gone down the drain because we have relied on our own wisdom. He's seen people's bodies breaking down, not able to carry them well to the end of their lives because of bad decisions that people have made. And today he stands in love saying, choose me, submit to me, bend your knee to me. In the very next verse, in verse 7, he says, do not be wise in your own eyes. God doesn't want you relying on your hindsight and saying, I should have known, I should have done. He invites you and I today to submit your life to him because your submission precedes your direction. I'd like us to read up this passage one final time, this time from the Message translation. It's still Proverbs 3:5-8, and it's really well written. Trust God from the bottom of your heart. Don't try to figure out everything on your own. Listen for God's voice in everything you do, everywhere you go. He's the one who will keep you on track. Don't assume that you know it all. Run to God. Run from evil. Your body will glow with health. Your very bones will vibrate with life. I love it. So one more time, your submission precedes your direction. So as you go into your week this week, here are a few things that we can do. As we get up early to pray, as a community of believers, we wake up every weekday at 4:30 a.m. for prayers. As you join morning prayers, before the prayers start, perhaps write down what the day ahead looks like. Write down the meetings that you have. Write down the people that you'll meet. Write down the things that you're planning on doing. And surrender them to God. Invite God's wisdom to supersede your own on each item. Remember, your wisdom is very limited. It doesn't matter how clever you are. It doesn't matter how well connected you are. It doesn't matter how exposed you are. It doesn't matter how far up in the corporate ladder you are. Your wisdom is minute in the grander scheme of things. You could be advising somebody on marriage because you've been married longer, yet your wisdom is nothing. You could be advising somebody on finances because you're a financial coach, yet your wisdom is nothing. I know some counselors and psychologists who actually pray for people before they walk into the room. That for me is a great prescription, because you have a degree in psychology, you have a master's in psychology, you have counseled thousands of people, many people have come to you, but in that particular time, everything that you have, the summation of everything that you have is minute and potentially insignificant. And I love this message because it really puts us in our place. It really tells us that you cannot afford to lean on yourself, on everything that you know and that you have learned. I love this thing that says, if you're going to work and you have a conversation or meeting, ask God to empty your mind. That's such an audacious prayer. Empty your mind of everything that you have and everything that you know, so that God can then fill it up. If you're going to meet co-workers or even employees, submit every interaction to God and ask Him to lead you. If you have a spouse and you're going to interact, which I'm hoping you're going to because you live in the same house, I know that you can say that I know this person, I know their routine, but today, Lord, show me how to love them. Show me how to honor them. If you have kids, pray, Lord, say, I think I'm a decent parent, but maybe there are some things that I'm missing. Open my eyes so that I might see. I invite your wisdom into how I'm parenting these kids, so that I don't do it on my own strength and on my own wisdom, because your submission precedes your direction. A second thing we can do this week, and this would be great if you do it in your discipleship groups, is the 4 areas of our lives that we've been thinking about and mulling over throughout this sermon series: health, finances, relationships, and faith. Perhaps it's a reflection on where do you feel like you are most relying on your own strength and wisdom. It could be relationships. You're a great parent, you've been married for 25 years. What more is there to learn? And maybe that's the place that God is saying, I'd love to teach you more if you let me. It could be your faith, because you've been saved for so long, you've walked with God for so long. And God is saying, submit this area to me because you've been relying on your own strength and your own wisdom. And now I want to show you what I have in store for you, because your submission precedes your direction. This morning, as I was getting ready to leave the house, my husband shared this amazing, beautiful story with me. The story is, the captain of the ship looked into the dark night and saw faint lights in the distance. Immediately, he told his signalman to send a message: alter your course 10 degrees south. Promptly, a return message was received: alter your course 10 degrees north. The captain was angered. His command had been ignored. So he sent a second message: alter your course 10 degrees south. I am the captain! Exclamation mark. Soon after, another message was received saying, alter your course 10 degrees north. I am a seaman 3rd class Jones. The captain is incensed. Immediately, he sends a third message, knowing the fear it would invoke. He says, alter your course 10 degrees south. I am a battleship. Then the reply came swiftly: alter your course 10 degrees north. I am a lighthouse. Folks, by the time you're a captain of a ship, you have a number of years under your belt. You know the terrain of the sea. You understand the waves and the winds. You know what's going to happen when you do A or B. he was adamant. He knew this thing. He had experience. He had the competency to say what he was saying. And he knew he was talking to an indignant subordinate who just wanted to do what he wanted to do. Until he realizes that if he would have gone 10 degrees south, he would have crashed. Listen, folks, God knows that you're a battleship. He knows that you've been through life, that you relied on your knowledge, on your wisdom to win the battles of marriage, to win the battles of health, to win the battles of education and family and parenting. But what God is saying is that He's aware that in life, in dating, in business, in marriage, in parenting, in money, you are a decorated 5-star captain. That you know what you're doing, that you have made decisions based on your years upon years of experience. Yet with all of your credentials and your life experience and your wisdom, He still invites you to yield all you know to Him. He says that if you want to get on the right path, if you want to avoid disaster ahead, teach yourself daily to hear His voice. Surrender all that you are and all that you know to Him. Because your search for direction in life will always be preceded by surrender. So say it with me, people. Your submission precedes your direction. Come on, say that. Say it like you believe it. Your submission precedes your direction. I want to invite us to a moment of prayer. I'd like to invite the prayer counselors to come at the front as we do so. But I also just want you to just close your eyes and reflect upon your life. I want to pray for someone who's realized that there's an area of their lives that they haven't submitted themselves fully to God. That you have years and years of experience, that you are a 5-star captain. You've made decisions about your life. You know how to parent. You know how to date. You know the decisions that you've made in life. You are exposed. You are well connected. But if the wisest man who has ever lived, who had so much wisdom, much more than anybody else, much more than all of us combined, can say, lean not in your own understanding, but yield it to God. Our Father and our God, we thank you. We thank you that you are speaking to us today about submission. That throughout this month we've been talking about the roadmap, the things that we must do to get us to where you want us to be. And I'm so grateful for this message that you've reminded us that even before direction, that we need to surrender, we need to submit. That you're inviting us to empty everything that we have in our heads, everything else that we have been able to have in our lives, in our marriage, in our parenting. You're saying that you want us to be better parents, but the only way to do that is to submit ourselves fully to you. You're saying that you want us to be better husbands and wives and friends, but we have to submit it to you. You're saying that we have to submit everything that we are and everything that we have. We pray for everybody who's here who wants to submit everything to you, who recognize that there are places in their lives that they are not fully submitted to you, that they have taken the reins of their life. They are the captains of their ship. They are the masters of their destiny. Like this captain, they are saying, let's go south, let's go south. And they have no idea that it's rocks and death that's awaiting them. Yet you're inviting us to go north where your lighthouse is shining. And so as an act of submission, please raise your hand if you want to submit an area of your life to God. Even if you want to submit your entire life to Him. You understand that you haven't been fully yielded. You've been this captain who's impressed that I must do this because you have experience. If there's any area of your life that you want to submit to God, I know I want to submit my parenting to God. I want to submit my marriage to God. I want to submit my ministry to God. Lord, I pray that relationship with. So I want to invite anybody who hasn't given their life to God, who doesn't have a personal relationship with Him. If there's anybody like that, please raise your hand. We would like to pray for you. If there's anybody like that today who hasn't given their life to God, please raise your hand. Lord, I thank you for this message that you have given us this entire month of roadmap. I'm so grateful that we serve a God who is invested in our lives and how it turns out. I'm so grateful for the wise sayings that is the book of Proverbs, that we can come before you, we can seek your wisdom and your counsel, even as we read throughout the book. I'm thankful that you want us not to lean in on our understanding. I pray that as we go out into the week, that before any meeting, before any encounter, we will fully submit it to you. Your submission precedes your direction. So this week, folks, as you go out, I pray that you will take this message with you. Take it to your discipleship groups. Discuss the areas in your life that you have held on so closely that you haven't submitted it to God. Before you get into any space, any meeting, ask God to empty yourself of everything that you know, of everything that you have studied, have read, have been exposed to, so that He will show you how to go. Proverbs 3:5-7. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways submit to Him and He will make your paths straight. Do not be wise in your own eyes. Fear the Lord and shun evil. This will bring health to your body and nourishment to your bones. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make His face to shine upon you and to be gracious to you. May the Lord lift up His countenance upon you and may He give you peace. May you trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways may you acknowledge Him, and He shall direct your paths. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit.